You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 53. This week on the show, we're joined by the guys from Campus Waterfowl, and we're also going to talk about some controversial news out of the state of Kansas regarding guides and their ability to take hunters and anglers on state-managed public lands. All right, welcome to the 53rd episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We're your online audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. I'm your host, Josh Palm, joined today, as always, by my co-host, Minivan Dan. Dan, what's up, dude?
Just, oil changes and,
regular tire rotations and things of that.
I tell you what's funny is that my wife goes and gets her car vacuumed out at, like, the Sonic or whatever is up in Erie, and every time they make her go through twice just because her van is so dirty from the kids. So just a little tidbit, but I guess that probably runs in our family because you know that my truck is like a locker room majority of the year.
Yeah. A little inside baseball here before we get going with the show. Dan is sort of like a hoarder inadvertently, like, I don't even know, but you sent me this text message the other day and said, what was it? Like, are you surprised to know that it was one garbage bag? What was it?
It was 3/4 of a contractor bag was filled with junk out of my truck.
Right. And you said that kind of like tongue in cheek, and I was like, I'm actually surprised that was all that was in there because, I expected a lot more. But, I think a lot of people with kids can relate on how tough it is to keep the vehicles cleaned up. But, Dan, we got a good show lined up this week. We, as we mentioned, we're going to be joined by the guys from Campus Waterfowl. They're a group of guys that have really kind of harnessed the energy of the collegiate student who's out there chasing waterfowl while attending classes and things like that. So it's cool to have them on the show and kind of pick their brain a little bit about, the balance that it takes being a full-time student and hunting waterfowl as aggressively as these guys do. So cool conversation coming up with them. We'll also got some waterfowl news that we're going to talk about, some fairly big things that are kind of shaking up the waterfowl world that we're going to talk a little bit about. We've got our Ask HP question of the week. We've got a great tip from Barton, Ramsey, Southern Oak Kennels. And, as we go through this, if you guys want to check us out, you can do so at hpoutdoors.com. If you want to get caught up on any past episodes, if you're new to the show, you can find everything there on hpoutdoors.com under the podcast tab. You can also find us at iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. If you're on any of the social media sites, make sure you go out and give us a follow or a like or whatever it is on that particular site. Specifically for you Facebook guys, we've got a group on Facebook that's a closed group for the listeners of this show. It's the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast listeners group. If you search that, request access, we'll let you in. And we got a bunch of good guys in there that are talking hunting. And, we kind of stray from here to there on different topics and stuff. But a real good group of guys in there. And you can interact with Dan and myself directly in there. So definitely check us out over there. Two other things that I did want to point out here before we kind of roll into the show, Dan. One, we mentioned it last episode, so I did want to take a minute to thank all of you that took the time to go to hpoutdoors.com on the podcast page and make a donation to the show. We talked about, how we, depend on support from the show to help us keep the things up and running and, make the ends meet and pay the bills that we do have associated with the show. So to those of you that went out and made contributions, we certainly appreciate each and every one of you and encourage anyone else. If you enjoy what we've got going on here, we do value your support. The more funding and support that we get through the website will provide us opportunities to perhaps, obtain, things where we can do more product reviews and things like that. So if we've got funds available through there, we'll definitely utilize them on the show to get you guys better content. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is just a reminder to everyone that we've been able to partner with our friends over at Higdon Outdoors. And if you guys are considering purchasing decoys, you can go to the Higdon website through HP Outdoors. So basically any of the banners that you see on HPOWDoors.com that's a Higdon banner, you can click on that to go to the Higdon webpage. And what that does is, as an affiliate of the company, if you go to their website through our links and make a purchase there, you will automatically be entered into a hunt giveaway where you may get an all expenses hunt to go out and hunt with the guys of Higdon and Higdon Outdoors TV and stuff like that. So if you're shopping for decoys, and specifically if you're looking for Higdon stuff, do yourself a favor, go through our website, make sure you get yourself entered in the opportunity to win that hunt. So all good stuff going on there. And what else, Dan? Anything else you want to kind of touch on here before we roll into the meat of the show?
No, are we excluded from winning that hunt? Because I think that'd be a really fun time to get down there with those guys.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we should leave it to the listeners. So if you do go, and we'll stay out of that. But I mean, if you could share a blind with a couple world championship callers down there, Kelly Powers, Trevor Shanahan, I'm sure those guys will be in that hunt. So that'd be a heck of a time. And like you said, I think all you have to do is pay for your travel and maybe your license, and the rest, the lodging, food, everything else is paid for. So that'd be a great time. And like I said, you get to share a blind with, possibly Kelly Powers and Trevor Shanahan. That would be a heck of a time.
Yeah, and it would there would be nothing cooler than to someone that wins that hunt that heard about the opportunity through our show.
Yeah,
so that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Be a super fan of somebody that is listening to our show, getting a chance to go down there and hunt with those guys. So
I think we'd have to do have to do an interview with them after that too, wouldn't we?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think they would definitely have an invitation to come onto the show and shoot the breeze about that hunt and let us know how it went. So all good stuff. And check us out, the social media stuff like I talked about, and, all of the stuff that we got going on there. So let's go ahead and roll into the show. And we're going to start it off with a little bit of waterfowl news. All right, Dan. I got two things to cover with this department, and the first I'm going to get out of the way because it's kind of easy. Just a simple sort of public service announcement that the duck stamps are now available for purchase. So make sure you're getting out there and getting your stamps bought. It's usually a risky deal to kind of wait to the last minute. You never know if you might have trouble tracking one down. So definitely get out there and get that squared away this summer. And there was also, I've seen some stories where they are considering allowing birds other than waterfowl potentially to be featured on the duck stamp in an attempt to try to generate more interest and more revenue through purchases of people outside of the waterfowl community to purchase these stamps. So who knows, you may see some other random birds on that stamp in the future in an attempt to try to drive more revenue and more purchases.
I'd buy a couple if there were eagles on it or hawks. I'd go for that. I think it's a good idea, and it might, like you said, it might generate some more money, and it all goes towards a good cause. So that's good stuff. Let me. I have two. One really isn't news, but I was hungry when I was looking at it, so maybe I'll just use both of mine right now, and then we can talk about your last one. But the Ducks Unlimited website has a recipe for honey barbecue duck legs, and the way that they have the platter set up pretty much made me want to just go home and shoot some birds and cook them up. But if you have a minute and you like anything to do with chicken wings or anything that looks like it, go to Ducks Unlimited website and scroll down a little bit and look through the recipes, and it looked pretty amazing. So that was my first one.
And I mean, who doesn't like chicken wings? I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, I agree. But my real news story would be breeding duck numbers and the pond count is down in North Dakota in a spring survey. They're down from last year. Results of the state annual spring breeding survey conducted in May showed an index of 3.46 million ducks. And that's a decline of 5.3% from last year. And with the exception of a 4% increase in gadwalls and a 19% increase in ruddy ducks, All other species have showed declines. Blue-winged teal are down 2%, mallards are down 9%, pintails are down 17%, and canvasbacks are down 18%. However, the overall duck numbers are still 45% above long-term average, which that survey began in 1948, like we talk about every year. Pretty much the water is the biggest concern. There's not the ponds, and it seems like the birds just kept flying, and it seems like since they did the survey the week of May 9th through 15th, and they've had quite a few rains since then, so they think that that'll be very beneficial to the breeding ducks that are there.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell when you're taking just a snapshot in time, There's so many different things that go into it, and it's weird to hear that because, in my neck of the woods, we've had an incredibly wet summer and spring. We've had a ton of rain, and I know a lot of the trout fishermen around here are real happy because it's allowed the trout streams to stay fishable for a lot longer. Because normally by this time of the year, our trout streams are getting real skinny, and a lot of they tend to lay off just because of the stress that the trout are in trying to stay alive in shallow water all the time. So it's weird kind of hearing that, but
that's it's bad for us. It must be hitting everything down there because we're not in a drought, but it's we're really way below our average here in Pennsylvania. So I've heard the word drought come up a couple times. We aren't in a drought, but it's on the brink. So we've had a little bit of rain. We got more coming, and we can use it. I know the farmers can use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hopefully it sounds like the ducks can use it too.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get a little bit of that rain that they're looking for out there. Okay, let's get into this story here, and this one caught my attention pretty quickly when I read the headline, and this came out a few days ago, and I don't know if this meeting has actually taken place yet or not, so I don't know sort of the outcome of this story, but this comes out of Kansas, where the Wildlife and Parks Commission are expected to ban the guiding of hunters and anglers on state-managed public lands during a recent meeting at Fort Scott. So essentially this came up because there were a lot of complaints from waterfowl hunters and people that had issues with guides having these larger boats that are disturbing hunts, and this is the perspective of the people that are complaining, taking away good hunting areas away from non-paying hunters. There have also been complaints of guides putting paying hunters on state wildlife areas and walk-in hunt areas, and they had been discussing this regulation for quite some time over several meetings with little opposition. So it was expected that this would get passed. And basically, this guy, Mike Miller, who is the Wildlife and Parks Information Chief, said that the ban would include state wildlife areas on federal reservoirs, state-owned fishing lakes, and private properties that were leased by the department, such as walk-in hunting or fishing areas. And he expected the regulation to be in place before September. So this really kind of got me thinking, because I look at this and I think public land and who has rights to the land and who has rights to do what on the land and all of those sort of things. So kind of before I weigh in on this, I'd be interested to hear where you stand on this, Dan. And do you think that a waterfowl guide or a fishing guide or something like that should be able to take a paying customer out on these areas and provide that service to them?
Now, my initial thought is that more regulation is the state trying to get into the pockets more somehow, trying to get a cut of that. They don't want to be losing out on money. But another thing that comes to my mind first would be, which I don't know about, are there blind laws in Kansas? The comments of people saying that they're taking the good spots. Like, is that because the guide is waking up earlier and getting there first? Or, like, how is that?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's blind laws situation because, if they're similar to the way, like, Virginia works, you have legal recourse against someone if they violate that law. So it's literally a law on the books where someone sets up within a certain distance from you, you can call the authorities and they can be addressed.
Right. So that it kind of is very. I'm sure it's a touchy subject out there, but it's for me too, just thinking about it because if we went on a guided hunt out in Kansas and that's what they were used to, if they, I don't know, but it's public. It's public land. The one thing that really, really bothers me, and it's not with Kansas, but when you're talking about public land in Colorado, and I know this is not waterfowl, but elk hunting, say you have, 10,000 acres and all the private owners buy the property. They might buy 10 acres, but it's a very thin stretch right along the road. Well, then to get to the public land, you have to pay a trespass fee. So you're paying like $400 a day to walk 200 yards across their property. And there's no other way to get to public land. So how is that fair to people when there's 10,000 acres of public land, but you have to pay to get on it? It's not, I don't think that's right. And I'm not quite sure this is the same story, but I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about it. Well, I just don't know a lot.
I think that I think they're different in a certain sense, but for your example, I would look at it in the sense of, it's not the private landowner's fault that they were able to purchase that property. And
right.
If there's a demand to access that land, benefit financially from that, it's incumbent upon the state, who is using taxpayer or, public generated funding to purchase that land, to ensure that there is access to the land. So I kick that back to the state.
Right.
And until they do what they should be doing to ensure that there is access for the people to utilize the public land, it's not the private landowner's obligation to allow the public to just tramp through their land because there's private behind, or because the public land is behind theirs. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yes.
So I think it's a fault on the state. And I know here in Virginia, the Game Commission, when they've made some land purchases, have come under a lot of fire because they purchase land that's not super huntable, and it's real, certain mountainous areas that are just not accessible and things. So, there's a lot of second guessing that can go into that, but I think it's a little bit separate of this. I mean, quite frankly, I think that what we're dealing with here, when you see in Kansas, is, they're tired of people, coming in with their big rigs and setting up, and what they would appear to them is taking away opportunities from the little guys that are just out there on the weekend warriors trying to have a nice hunt. And quite honestly, I see both sides of the argument. I really do. I mean, I as a guy who hunts public land and is not a guide, I would be frustrated with, always having to deal with the big outfits that got the, big nice boats and can, set up the massive spreads and do the things that I wish I could do, that I just don't have the resources to be able to do. On the other side of that, as a guide, your tax dollars are used to purchase that land or that lake or whatever as well. And you're paying licenses fees. So are your clients. And if that person is willing to pay you to take them there, you have as much right to access that land as anyone. I don't know why those two kind of go hand in hand. I'm wondering, should there be a separation where I say, Dan, I'm going to pay you to put me on a good hunt? And should there be a correlation between that relationship and the fact that public funds were used to build or to buy that piece of property, which the guide has contributed to? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, they would have equal right to hunt that land as much as anyone else.
Right.
But does the relationship, the fact that someone else is paying them to go with them, is that different, or should those be one and the same?
Yeah, and I wish that we could see what the complaints were, if they were actually from the weekend warriors, or if they were from other guides maybe that are just private land guides, and they don't think it's fair that they can do that. I don't know. You might have a mixture, but it had to have been a lot of people complaining to get to this point.
Right. And I mean, they're saying that there's little opposition to this. So, part of my concern is, when you talk about restricting public land, or overcrowding of public land, it's the whole supply and demand thing. It drives up the demand for private land and leases and things like that, which drive those prices up.
Right.
So a lot of places, the average guy can't just go out and agree with the farmer for a lease. I mean, you've got big outfits that got money to put on it, to secure that land. So, if I'm a hunter and I know XYZ outfit has 5,000 acres leased, and then I'm bumping up against them all the time on the public swamps that is the only land I have access to. I could see getting frustrated with that, but because they have the resources to do it, it's a really fine line. Right. I honestly, I can't say which side I fall on it. I mean, I see value to both, because the guides, they're part of the local economy, and they're taking their hunters to the local diners, and they're fueling their boats at the local gas stations, and they're contributing economically to the local community. So I don't really know, and I'm interested to see how this turns out. And quite frankly, I could see a little bit of a domino effect here, where other states take a look at this, and it'll be interesting to see what the impact is on this. And I think fishing and waterfowl is unique in this conflict, unlike perhaps whitetail hunts or things of that nature, where the population and quality of animals much more closely monitored and managed.
Right.
It's not like you're going to run into a buck guiding service on the local WMA, because they're not out there to shoot spikes like most of us are seeing. They're managing their farms and don't want any part of being anywhere near public type stuff. So it's a completely interesting dynamic that is unique to waterfowl and fishing. And I mean, honestly, I can't really understand this type of regulation going in on a fishing guide. I mean, I just can't see it.
Right.
I mean, you want to go walleye fishing, and you go out to the lake and you go and drift, and they put you on a boat full of walleye, I mean, how is that? I don't know. The duck hunting, I see the argument a little more. The fishing argument, I just can't. I can't see that. And I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just, I mean, honestly, I think there's legitimate complaints, but I just don't know if I can honestly support this kind of regulation,
right,
without having a little bit more information. But, maybe we got some guys that are listening to the show from Kansas that could chime in and maybe give us a little more information on this, or if this has gone on in other areas of the country. I'd certainly like to hear a little bit more about it. But, state lands around us and stuff, they lease the fields to farmers, for crops and things like that. So they're making money on the land. It's not like there isn't money being made by other, by groups off of public areas.
Right.
So
I could see if there was like some major bullying going on, like, say if you and I showed up to a field and then an outfitter came and just, harassed the heck out of us until we left, I could see something like that. But like you said, I mean, to totally get rid of it, instead of setting different laws like blind laws or something like that, I mean, you're cutting off that's their livelihood, though.
Right. And I've heard some other states looking at perhaps having like a permitting process where you want to guide on the public land, you got to pay like a permit fee to be able to do it.
I could see that too.
I don't know if that's the answer or not. I don't know if that's unfair to the guides or not.
It's more fair than saying you can't do it at all.
Well, of course, but I mean, again, it gets back to the root of the issue here. Like if it's a harassment type situation, I mean, a lot of states have, regulations and laws against harassing hunters, specifically. So, it's against the law to do that, in a lot of states. So you could get your law enforcement involved. So, again, I don't know what the answer to this is, but I thought it was very, very interesting that this faced little pushback in that area. And what could be the fallout of this. And, I saw this on social media, so there was certainly people on both sides of the coin. But for a guy that lives in Kansas, this is probably a pretty emotional, a topic for them. And, so it's interesting. And I think it's something that, I'd like to hear a little bit more about. So if you got some more information on that, let us know, send us an email, hit us up on social media, fill us in, and, hopefully we can become a little more educated as to what the situation is there. So anyway, good stuff, on the waterfowl news front this episode. And, we'll go ahead and move on, and let's get to the, Ask HP question of the week.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And this week's Ask HP Outdoors question of the week is brought to you by Higdon Outdoors, quality service innovation. That is Higdon Outdoors. Visit Higdon Outdoors at higdondecoys.com. And like I mentioned earlier, make sure you're getting to their site through the banners on the HP Outdoors page, where you can get entered into the free hunt giveaway with the guys down there, just for simply making a purchase. Okay, Dan, this week's question comes from Ben Page, and Ben's got a question that I have dealt with / struggled with myself. So I'm glad this is coming up, and let's go ahead and play that and discuss it on the other side.
Hey guys, I had a general question here for you. I hunt along a river, and I own a small John boat. My lab's now at the point where she's just a hunting buddy and not a retriever anymore. Probably a few seasons away from getting another hunting dog. As a result, my shots are now limited to birds upriver and on the near side. Obviously, you'll get a few that end up on the far side of the river, and it takes some work to get the boat out there, pull the anchors, put across to the far side, often going downstream, then back upstream, and by that time you're missing a flight or two and generally just frustrating yourself. So my question is, do you have any tips, tricks, or tactics on hunting a river with a decent current that doesn't limit your shots?
All right, we'd like to thank Ben for calling into the show, contributing that question. If you'd like to hear yourself on the Ask HP Outdoors question of the week, you can do so by sending us an email, hitting us up through social media. If you'd like to hear your voice, you can call us at our voice mailbox system at 724-609-FOWL, 724-609-3695. Leave us a voice message, and you may hear yourself on the show just like Ben did. And if we use your question on the air, we will send you a free HP Outdoors barrel decal. So, Ben, please send us your address, and we'll get that in the mail to you as soon as possible. All right, Dan. You're hunting a river with some pretty good current. You don't have a dog. What are you going to do? You got to get the bird, right?
Definitely when ethics come into play, you definitely have to get the bird. And, we talked offline about this a little bit because I don't have very much experience with it. I'll jump shoot some wood ducks and whatnot, but I have the luxury of a dog that'll go get it. But thinking about it, I would just try and use the land to your advantage somehow. Try and find a bend to where, they might, after you shoot them, they might be coming closer to you. But if it's that big of a deal, it seems like something that, one, you're going to have to take your boat out every time to get, if it's that fast, or, you might be looking for a different hunting area.
Yeah, where I've dealt with this, the water can range anywhere from chest deep to ankle deep, right? And where because I've literally dealt with this exact same situation, and what I've found to work to some degree is finding like a shallower spot, like a flat maybe of a sandbar or something, where I can physically run out through the water much quicker than wading through thigh deep water kind of thing. And maybe take like a, use an old football term here, take like a pursuit angle to try to like meet the duck kind of thing. But I mean, that's not always something that you can do. So that this is site, kind of set up specific. But, the thing I would say is try to maybe utilize the land features like you're talking about, islands and sandbars and things. And, try to get in situations where if you can play the wind right, where you might set your spread sort of upwind so that you're positioned downwind and trying to shoot the birds over those decoys to where the duck is actually coming towards you more so than going away from you when it falls into the water. You know, and then you also touched on, I mean, sometimes you just can't really effectively hunt moving water that quickly. Sometimes maybe the best approach would be to jump shoot, you know, birds if it's a small enough body of water that you could get some concealment around bends and things like that. But I mean, this is a tough situation. There is no good answer. You know, if you don't have a dog, you know, it's a challenge that you're going to have to deal with. And the number one priority is recovering the bird. So if it's the best spot you got to hunt, you might have to give up a couple flights to recover what you shoot. Maybe you work the birds closer to you and you don't take longer shots to try to make the shorter retrieves, that kind of thing. Or maybe you try to utilize spots where there's like a lay down and you get kind of like a slow pull behind that lay down where you might be able to throw a decoy or two in there to try to draw them into that area. So when if they drop in that area, you don't have as much, you know, current to deal with right on the moment. But I just don't think this is a great situation where if you don't have a dog, you know, you're really going to have much choice. So,
I remember you a couple years ago, you know, you would hike in and hunt it, and you're like, you know, it's tough enough to keep my decoys in place, let alone, you know, if I do shoot something, I have to go get it, and it's just such a pain. I remember you talking about that, and, you know, you had birds flying up and down, and, you know, just you couldn't pull the trigger because you know that it would just have been such a hassle to try and get them. And you, like I said, you walked in, so you didn't have the luxury of a boat or a dog, and, you know, I think that's the right choice to just kind of, you know, find somewhere else. And you know, the last thing you want to do is, you know, shoot a limit of birds and not be able to get any of them. You know, that's the very last thing you want to do, and it's a tough situation. Hopefully you can get on different properties and kind of get away from that.
Yeah, and you know, try some of those different setup techniques, or, you know, jump shooting or something like that. But yeah, I don't think there's a great answer to that. If someone out there, you know, has dealt with this and has found a way to successfully deal with it, we'd love to hear it. You know, as we mentioned earlier, send us an email, hit us up on social media, and we'll share that with everyone else listening. But again, we'd like to thank Ben for participating in this week's episode. And Ben, get us your information, and we'll get a barrel sticker out to you as soon as possible. All right, Dan, let's go ahead and transition into your favorite part of the show. Mm-hmm. And as we always do about this point in the show, we were going to turn it over to Barton Ramsey, Southern Oak Kennels, for our retriever training quick tip of the episode.
Hey guys, this is Barton Ramsey from Southern Oak Kennels with your retriever training quick tip of the episode. And this week I want to talk about obedience, not any specific obedience items or skills, but just a general attitude that we should take when we're training obedience. For me, a gun dog that is lacking in obedience can never be a finished, or in my mind, even a decent gun dog. I think that obedience training is at least 80% of the training that a gun dog needs. We set up our entire training program to focus almost entirely on obedience the first 2 months, and then we do all of our training sessions focusing on obedience the first 15 minutes. And we can get caught up on what we want a dog to know when it comes to obedience, on the specific skill set, and miss out on the general attitude that we're aiming for with the dog. What you want to try to develop is a dog that loves to please you and to work for you. And this is why we use treats when dogs are young, because we reward the dog for the proper behavior. This makes the dog not just want to do the proper behavior, but they want to learn. They want to do training sessions. They get excited about training sessions. And so we want to continue to encourage this even when you remove treats from training, which you should do once you start formal training. Once you start actually doing a lot of retrieving work, when the adult teeth have come in, you should remove treats for the most part. But you want to work on certain things. Just a few quick tips. If you're in a really bad mood, or you've had a really long day, or you're just overall stressed out, just take your dog out in the field and let him run around. Give him a few recalls If he doesn't come to you, don't worry about it, and then put him up. Don't try to actually do a training session. Your dog will pick up on the fact that you're stressed out and you're angry or you're not in an overall good mood, and they'll sense that, and you're going to have a rough time working with that dog. So if your attitude's not good, don't go work the dog. The second thing you need to know is your dog needs to know that you are both in charge and trustworthy. And so you need to be the boss, but you also need to be his friend. And so we encourage you to get down on the dog's level, love on the dog, play with the dog, encourage the dog, but always do it in such a way that you're the boss. So never lay on your back, never let the dog walk on you or step on you, or walk on your feet. But don't snap at the dog. You need to build the dog's trust. And so you want to see a general attitude of trust. Things to look for that are important in this are things like eye contact. You want the dog to be looking at you in the eyes. We actually encourage eye contact. For our dogs, they're not allowed to come out of the kennel or go out of a door until they sit and make eye contact. And they pick up on this very quickly. And if they're not good at making eye contact, you can move your hands around. You can take a set of keys and shake them around your eyes. You can rub the dog under its chin while looking into his eyes and say, good boy, and just encourage him. So you want to see eye contact. You want to see a dog's tail up and wagging while you're training. You don't want to see it tucked and down, but you want to see it up. You want to see the dog excited, almost kind of bouncy. You're not going to continue to have the dog bouncing up into finished work, but you want to see the dog get excited to work with you. And so as you get out, as you do obedience with your dog, don't just pay attention to, is the dog sitting and is the dog staying? Is the dog placing? Is the dog recalling? But pay attention to what the dog's overall attitude looks like and do practical things to encourage the dog. Figure out what makes your dog tick. Is it verbal praise? Some dogs don't care much about verbal praise. They would rather have a scratch behind the ear. Some dogs don't want to be petted at all, but they love verbal praise. Or some dogs like it when you get down on their level and love on them. They don't like it when you reach down from above them. Figure out what it is that gets your dog excited. Sometimes it's just retrieving. And so with a dog like that, if they seem a little down, we will give them a fun bumper and just hey, and hup up and throw it for them and have them recall like they're supposed to, deliver the bumper back to us, and then sit and just use that as an encourager and a trust builder. So I encourage you guys to get out, train with your dogs, work on obedience more than anything, and try to develop an overall positive attitude and a relationship founded on trust with your dog. And if you guys have any more questions, we'd love to answer them on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast Facebook page, or you can contact us directly through www.southernoakkennels.com. Thanks.
All right, as always, we'd like to thank Barton for his contributions to the show. Encourage everyone to check out Barton and Southern Oak Kennels. They got a great thing going on. They're blowing up down there, doing incredible work. So if you're not familiar with Southern Oak Kennels, give them a look. And, some of the finest gun dogging you'll see around going on down there. All right, Dan, obedience and the relationship with your dog, all super important. And, you kind of develop a theme when you're listening to Barton talk about these tips is, the fundamentals and the very, very basics of things are so important. These are core concepts that really everything you do is going to build off of. So these are things that you really need to focus on early on from the start.
Right. And he lays it out so nicely. And, just going back to his Southern Oak Kennels, the main page there, he had a live Q&A. He had it for about an hour and people just writing questions and him answering them live. So, those all save, and those are on his Facebook page. So, that's something to look into if you have a new dog or a dog that you want to freshen up with. But, we always talk about the dogs and, the dog's doing this and the dog's doing that. But, the trust and the eye contact and, just the personal obedience that you need. I find myself running out of patience rather easily lately, and I'm not sure if that has to do with the kids or just it's getting hot and I hate hot weather or what, but sometimes, just for the lack of better terms, you have to check yourself and make sure you're in the right mental state to be teaching. So thanks again to Barton, and it's good to have him back on here. And he knows his stuff and he does well.
Yeah, the live thing was pretty cool. I like that the Facebook has that live feature now, and I'd love to find a way to utilize that for somehow with the stuff that we got going on. But I've heard Barton talk about it a couple different times, specifically about the type of dog that he utilizes and breeds and stuff. And they really pride themselves on that, the dog that not only is a high drive hunting machine, but also can be a great family dog and obeys around the house and serves that dual purpose. So, a lot of those obedience and that relationship piece goes hand in hand, and it goes past just the time that you're spending training and the time that you're spending in the duck blind. So, as we've talked about before, the dog's, a part of the family, and, that inclusiveness really goes a long way when you're leaning on them to learn a new skill and that kind of thing.
Did you happen to catch the one video he had up? It wasn't live, but it was just a video, and he probably had, I don't know if there were 12 or 15 dogs sitting there, and he's like, we also enjoy playtime too, and they're all sitting there watching him, and he just yells, "Go play," and they all take off and go jump in the pond. Oh my gosh, every one of them just sitting there waiting for the next command. So if you have questions, and he's in the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast listeners group too, and people will post that, and I pretty much just tag his name to it, and he gets right on there and answers it. So just a wonderful resource to have when it comes to anything to do with dogs.
Absolutely. So again, thanks to Barton, and we'll look forward to hearing more from him in future episodes. And let's go ahead and transition into the main piece of this week's show, Dan. We had the guys from Campus Waterfowl on, and I got to be honest, they hit us up about the show, and we started looking into what they got going on, and they're one of these social media sort of juggernauts. I talk about it in the show, in the interview. I can't recall exactly, but they're something to the tune of 35,000 Instagram followers and 15,000 followers on Twitter. I mean, just massive accounts that put out lots of waterfowl content and that kind of stuff. And it's based on a group of dudes that are in college, and we talked with them about our college experience and the balance and all that kind of stuff. So I know we've talked to guys through the show that are in school that are struggling with that, and I think there's a lot of transferable things to take in here, especially guys that are looking for new hunting buddies or trying to find new areas to hunt, or are moving to a new area, relocating and trying to sort of get in a niche, that kind of thing. That's essentially what guys go through in college and stuff. So I thought it was kind of cool to have them on, chat with them a little bit. So why don't we go ahead and play this interview and let everybody hear it. All right, guys, joining us on the show is a couple guys that Dan and I, kind of talking off air, are incredibly jealous of. It's Wesley and Derek from Campus Waterfowl. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because you guys had originally reached out to us, and when we kind of took a look at what you guys had going on, pretty much instantly, Dan and I got incredibly jealous about what you have going on as college guys who are out there, living the life, chasing waterfowl, while you're getting your education, and you've kind of pulled a lot of people together that are sort of in this similar situation, and you guys have really generated quite a following for yourselves. First thing I do is I go onto social media, obviously, like most people do, and I check you guys out. You're talking north of 35,000 followers on Instagram, better than 15,000 on Twitter. So obviously you guys have kind of hit a niche here with sort of what you got going on. So for anybody that may not know, why don't we start off with you just telling us a little bit about Campus Waterfowl, how you guys got started, and sort of a little bit of background about the project that you guys got going on.
Yeah, this is Wesley, and we got started in 2014, and the genius behind it, or the things behind Campus Waterfowl, was Jason Cruz, and he sent out a tweet and was looking for college-age kids and wanting to create a platform. And so, me and Derek came on after he sent out that tweet of, I think, 250 applications, and backed us up and showed us, how to generate a following and really coached us along the way. But yet he gave us pretty much total reign on, what we're posting, when we're posting it, how we're posting it. And, he gave us complete control, but he was there to guide us when we had questions. So.
Nice. So what universities do you guys go to currently?
I am at Rogers University in Claremore, Oklahoma.
Oh.
Yeah, this is Derek talking, and I go to South Dakota State University up in Brookings, South Dakota.
What's your degree? What are you getting a degree in?
I'm pursuing environmental conservation, which is like a wildlife management degree.
And then I'm a business econ major with minors in entrepreneurial studies and marketing. Yep.
Oh, excellent. So what, we talked a little bit before we got on the air, but, Josh and I both played college baseball, and he played at Penn State. I played at Davis and Elkins College in West Virginia. He had a D1 scholarship. I had a D2 scholarship. So I know that his training was probably much more difficult than mine, and mine was pretty difficult. Our hours, 2-a-days and stuff like that, like it was very, very difficult to find time to do anything fun. And then, take away the fun, you have to get up at 8 a.m., after your morning workouts and go to class and stay awake and do well and all that. So, kind of take us through a day in the fall. How do you find time to pursue hunting and balance the schedule of being a college student?
Well, I guess it sort of starts registering for classes. Really, you could, if you really want to, you could schedule your classes later in the day so you can hunt in the morning. But for me, I put school before hunting just so then I know my classes will fit in and I can get my credits that I need. But that's always an option, to schedule your classes later in the day, and you can sort of just go about that. But then you can do all your other stuff after your classes. But then there's for me, I always go hunting on the weekends. That's my time to go hunting, I guess. My schedule doesn't really work out to go hunting in the morning.
Yeah, I'd agree with Derek. I schedule out time in my schedule specifically to make time to go from birds and get on them, for sure.
So how many days do you think you hunt during a waterfowl season?
As many days as possible.
Whenever you can.
Yeah, I'm definitely, if I can't go hunting that day, definitely scouting. There's no doubt about that.
It sounds like you guys it's fully incorporated into your schedules, in the sense that, anytime that you get possible, you're out in the field, which is awesome. And, I wanted us to circle back to a couple of things that you guys have said. Like when I was in school, Dan kind of talked a little bit about, our schedules and stuff, but I think I can remember hunting, outside of Christmas break. That was the time that I got to hunt some. But outside of that week or, a couple weeks, I think I hunted turkeys twice in the spring, at school. And, there's a lot of challenges that I've found, trying to hunt while I was at school. And we're going to talk about some of those, but, before I jump into that, I just want to jump back one more time. The first thing you guys said is so important, and we talk about this on our show with guys that are just getting into waterfowl hunting in general. Having a mentor is so important. Someone that has been around and knows what they're doing, and whether you're trying to hunt ducks for the first time, or you're trying to stand up a concept and and get involved with social media and a platform and things like that. It's just awesome to have somebody involved that that can help you. Along the way, and sort of let you make your own mistakes and kind of, steer you in the right direction. So that's awesome that Jason gave you guys that opportunity. And, that was just something that really kind of caught my attention right off the bat there. So that's such a good thing that, it kind of leads me into what I'm going into, with, as a college kid, you've got a million things going on, and, one of the biggest challenges for any hunter, let alone somebody who might go away to a university or go to a new area, is finding a place to hunt and people to hunt with and all that kind of stuff. So talk us through a little bit about your approach to hunting public land or gaining permission for private ground, because quite frankly, we have a lot of college guys that listen to the show, and, I've been out of college now, 10 plus years. I'm 33 years old, and I'm just now feeling like that I get to the point where when I go to someone's door and it's like an older farmer or something, that they're not looking at me like a kid, like some young punk that's just going to come out there and, trash the place or whatever. So talk through some of the challenges and, some of the successes that you guys have had gaining access to ground to get on birds.
Now, when I walk up to the door, I usually get that feeling that they're looking down on me because I am young. When I walk up the door, I usually get that feeling that they're looking down on me because I'm younger. So, number one, I usually take an older buddy or my dad, somebody that, is older or looks older at least. And, I try to be as respectful as possible. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. And I like, to have at least the area scouted and, know that I'm knocking on the correct owner's door.
Yeah, the way I approach, hunting private land is, when I'm asking for permission, I sort of approach it sort of as, a job interview where, the interview starts the second you pull into their driveway, because, the second you pull into their driveway, they're looking down at you already, well, who's pulling up on my property? So I sort of just be courteous when you're pulling in and be respectful when you're talking to them and, say thank you and just for taking their time, and because they got better stuff to do than talking to a couple hunters. But just be respectful to their property if you do get permission, and show good stewardship to the land that they own and that they let you hunt on.
I was going to say, one of the first comments he said was, making sure you've done your scouting. You want to make sure you know who has ownership of that land. And I think one of the main things, if you go up and say, hey, Mr. Wilson, I'm really interested, blah, blah, when you make it personable and their name right off the bat, I think that's a huge advantage to gaining access to private ground. So if you guys don't do that yet, make sure that you do it. And like you said, being courteous and showing respect and, making them feel comfortable with you is a huge advantage. And, down in West Virginia, I didn't hunt a ton of waterfowl. Actually, I didn't hunt any at all when I was in college. But when we were down there, we hunted some private land, and it was kind of, handed down to me a few, I want to say probably 8 years before me. A couple of the baseball guys got permission on some property and always archery hunted it, and then they would take a freshman and hand it down, and you go out and meet the family, and they'd cook dinner for you, and it was wonderful. So that was a huge advantage going there and being able to hunt that land. Other than that, we did a lot of public land, and it was it was public land. So I think it's about the same everywhere. You're going to run into a lot of other hunters and picking up garbage and cleaning up. So, I can't stress that enough about how to be respectful to the landowners. But, my next question is going in. Davis-Nelkins is a very, very liberal college. So, anti-hunting, anti-guns, anti-harvesting animals, and this is in the middle of West Virginia. So,
anti-America, pretty much.
What's that?
Anti-America, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty bad, but how do you and all the kids that went there outside of athletics kind of fit that bill too. So, if I wanted to find another hunter, I was hoping that someone else on the team was, had the same like mind as I did. So, how do you, find hunters that kind of fit your mold and you want to hang out with? Are there different programs that you have at school, or how do you go about that?
What I did where I did a lot of networking where my cousin, he was going to college there already, so he sort of built a network of guys that like to go hunting. So I sort of had it easy going to college at South Dakota State just because my cousin went there. But a lot of things that I've did too is join the DU chapter on campus there to meet a lot of new guys too. And we went on a couple hunts here and there, and then there was a couple guys in a few of my classes that I met, and they really enjoyed hunting. So we went out a few times and shot a few birds, and I guess really just not being afraid to network with people around you. Like, you can't really judge a book by its cover. You have to talk to the person and see who they are to really see if they like to hunt or not.
Yeah, I can second that. I've found a couple of buddies that I noticed, they'd wear camo, and one of them had a RNT sticker on the back of his phone. So I just struck up a conversation, started talking to him, and, a few semesters later, we ended up hunting and hanging out and having a great time together. And it's funny, I met my fiance in college, and she would call us guys in the classroom. So we ended up networking and stuff, and we ended up becoming known as the guys in class.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because I always say every duck hunter, I'm not a big proponent of having a bunch of stickers all over all your stuff, being beak busters and all that crazy stuff. But the DU logo, I got the otter box with the Max 4 camo on it or whatever, subtle things like that. I live in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. I mean, I always kid with my wife that, when I was growing up, I could count on one hand how many people that I personally knew that did not hunt. Here today, my son may not be able to count, fill one hand with how many people he knows that do hunt. So it's a complete role reversal. And sometimes I feel like I'm kind of the outcast here, but it does surprise me how often people hit me up about, oh, hey, you a DU member, or, hey, you hunt, I see your phone or whatever. So it's a great way to just start the conversation with a lot of people. And, it's led to, one of my good hunting buddies that I've had now, we met through Facebook, oddly enough, but it was just cause, he had some pictures of duck hunting up, and so did I. And we saw we were, close to each other. So we just started chatting. But there's a lot of different ways that, network, and you guys have definitely got on to some good ones. And another thing that I think that you sort of touched on is that even if you're a young guy, and, in all fairness, it is something that works against you when you're trying to gain, access to property. Cause like you said, the people are judging you all, automatically as soon as you get up the driveway, they're starting to make an evaluation on you, and your age is a check against you, cause they assume it's immaturity and all that kind of stuff. But, you're never going to get access to that piece of property that you don't stop and ask, So a lot of guys miss out on opportunities just out of fear for asking, or, not having that fear of rejection. So definitely some good stuff there. And, I know we've had people specifically ask us about, hey, I'm going to college. How would you recommend meeting new people and finding new places to hunt? So hopefully that'll help them out some. And, kind of further, so let's say you're in college now, you've established a little bit of a network, you got a couple places to hunt maybe. We touched on this a little bit, but, if you really want to get after it, like you guys talk about doing, how is it that you find time, and what recommendations would you have for the college guys that are listening now? And maybe some of these recommendations could even parallel to the guys that are out of school. Everybody's got busy stuff going on, whether it's kids and work or college and, classes and things like that. Everybody's got crap going on in their lives. What have you guys found to be effective tools to help you manage those things to allow you to spend more time in the field?
I've listened to your guys' podcast for about a year now, and I've heard you talking about doing the honeydews, and
that was only Dan. That was never me. That was only Dan.
Yeah. You built a whole launch pad off the back end of your house there.
But it translates over into college too. Our honeydews would be, getting our projects done, our homework done, studying done. That way, we actually have time Saturday morning, Sunday morning to get out and go have fun and actually knock down a few birds. So, that would be one thing. And then, like we said earlier, scheduling time out in your actual schedule itself is also a great way. I like to schedule time in the middle of the week because, I personally hunt a lot of public land. And Saturday mornings, I almost don't go now just because of crazy amounts of our sky blessed and then calling nonstop, and it
Right.
just drives me crazy.
So let me ask you this question, not to cut you off there, but I mean, I can remember in college the few times that I did go hunt. I remember, going hunting on a Saturday morning, and like all my buddies are going out Friday night or whatever, and like people they just thought I was crazy, for not wanting to go out and drink and all this kind of stuff. And I'd get up at like 3:00 in the morning and do all this, and people would just look at me like I'm crazy. And maybe because of where you guys go to school, it's a little more commonplace for people to do that. But in the circles that I ran, and Penn State's a big school, but we had hunt fraternities and hunting clubs and fly fishing clubs, stuff like that. But sort of in the athlete community where I was at, it wasn't common at all for people to do this kind of stuff. So do you get people that sort of give you that kind of like, what the heck's wrong with you guys? Like, you're going to really get up that early on a Saturday morning? Like, you crazy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town, so, the whole partying thing was part of it, but as for the most part, I stayed away from all that, and then, continued into college. I found my buddies that like to actually get up and go hunting, so I don't get that full, but definitely at school, and I tell people, I get up at 3:00 in the morning to go wade through ice cold mud, that's hip. They look at me and go, why?
Yeah.
You guys know.
I get that like 2 or 3 times a week from my wife, so it's it doesn't stop typically.
So I think, was it Derek? You said that you were involved in the DU chapter.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Is that right? Okay. Does your school have any like a Delta chapter or any other hunting programs? And same to you, Wes.
I know they were trying to get a Delta waterfowl going, but I don't think it ever got off the ground too much. But the DU, I think that's been up for just a few years now. It's not it's pretty new to campus right now, and just this year they started an annual skeet shoot the day before duck opener. So a bunch of guys will go out there, shoot some skeet, just to sort of get some practice in before going out and hit some live birds.
I was going to ask what all you did. Do you guys do any wood duck boxes or
not as much.
anything like that?
Not. We don't do any wood duck boxes. Not too much of, but we do have that our annual banquet that we have in the spring. So that's always one thing that we sort of work towards for the whole year. It's just making sure that banquet turns out good and we get the people there.
All right, so I got a question. I got a question for you about these banquets in college, because I never, I didn't have much time to do any of that kind of stuff in college, like I've said. But so when I go to DU banquets now, it's like a bunch of older dudes, and it's like open bar. We're playing some games, like whatever. But when you have a college, is it you get a lot of chicks out there and everything, or how's it? What's the crowd and the scene like in the college DU banquet?
It was mostly just college guys there. There weren't too many girls there. But this year we were trying to get more of the community involved, so we had a lot more prints compared to last year, a lot more wood carving.
Yeah, Dan.
And I think they really like that.
Dan,
so
community is code word for more chicks, I think, probably.
Trying to get the community more involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, guys. Well, hey, listen, obviously, you guys got your stuff together. You're making the most of, a time in your life that's, everybody kind of looks back fondly on their college years. But, one of the big regrets that I miss about missed with college is getting to spend more time in the field. And, that was something that really kind of, re-energized me once I got out of school, and kind of just replaced, the time that I spent with athletics, sort of replaced that with time, in the outdoors and specifically waterfowl hunting. So, talk to us a little bit about, the future of Campus Waterfowl and sort of what you guys got in the plan for that platform.
Well, the future is beginning right now, really, because we just added 6 more new reps just a few weeks ago. So we're getting them initialized, and we're getting them used to posting out the content and, getting them more and more involved. So me and Derek don't have to do work. and another platform, Campus Whitetail, for the whitetail hunters out there. So that's a big looking future, and looking forward to continuing working alongside Mossberg and doing more product testing for them and that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And I mean, Dan asked you guys earlier about this, but I know you're studying stuff, wildlife management, business, with, entrepreneur type stuff. What do you guys have as far as your long-term goals? Obviously, I mean, you're sharp dudes that, Jason kind of picked out of a lot of folks that were interested. And, what do you guys have hopes of as far as, any expectations where you can hopefully parlay into the waterfowl industry or the outdoor industry as a whole, or kind of what are you guys looking to do there?
I guess what I plan on doing, sort of what I planned, but I definitely want to get into the outdoor industry more as a whole and sort of look at more of the marketing and sort of more media at a corporate level to really maximize what I have to offer for what my studies has contributed to. So I just sort of want to get out there and just get things done for the outdoor industry just because it's been a big part of my life and I just want to give back to it.
Yeah, I can say that, I look forward to hopefully one day working in the outdoor industry. I would prefer it to be the waterfowl industry just because that's where my passion really is. And, Jason, he does a lot of media work for several companies, and I self doing that hopefully. But yes, definitely I see myself in the outdoor industry one day.
Awesome. Well, you guys, sounds like you guys are off to a good start, and we certainly appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedule. I mean, I'd feel bad if it was like finals week or something, but I know you guys are probably done with school for the summer. So tell everybody listening where they can check you guys out with Campus Waterfowl and Campus Whitetail.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, all at Campus Waterfowl, and Campus Whitetail at Instagram and Twitter. And, feel free to send us pics with the college you go to, and we get them posted in a timely manner, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, so if you're a listener of this show and you want to represent your school, show everybody, show these guys that you guys can get on ducks where you're at, definitely get them over there and get your school a little bit of shine. Dan, anything else you wanted to run through here?
Oh, man. Well, I was going to ask them just, kind of what's in their bag, what kind of gun you're using, what kind of ammo, camo, decoys. One of your questions would be what's your favorite snack that you take out in the field? So what do you guys roll with? What's in if you pop out of the truck, what am I going to expect to see?
Well, Mossberg sent us the 930 to test out, and so that's what we shoot a ton. And shells are usually whatever's cheapest, unless there's a company out there sending the shells.
Yeah, give them our address too.
Right.
Yeah, camo, it depends on where I'm hunting. We hunt more lakeside or riverbanks, a little bit of flooded timber, and if I'm lucky, I can get out in a field. So I've got, the dark creek camo to the shadow grass and all real tree, mafia, whatever. I don't prefer anything. And my snack, it's funny because I'm actually known as the snack man.
Oh boy, Josh, you got some...
That means you're a good man. That's what that means.
Because I break out the Pop-Tarts or the cookies or whatever, and everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, there's 10 minutes till shooting line. I can be eating right now. What are you talking about?
It's the little things.
Yeah, they roll.
It's the little things that hold a duck blind together. And Dan just disrespects this, but a little snack here, a little splash of coffee there, it can get you through a tough hunt. And Dan just refuses to acknowledge that.
No, I'll take coffee. I bring a ton of coffee every time, but I'm not a big breakfast guy, so it doesn't. I guess it's just not that important to me. But I will have something in there to snack on, or if I'm hunting with Josh, then I'll just sneak over to his bag and take one of his 30 items that he brings along. So I'm covered.
True story. Well, guys, I appreciate you giving us some time again and playing along with us here with some of these silly questions. But again, we encourage everybody to check out Campus Waterfowl. I know a lot of college guys listening to this show, so get some pictures over to them and get your school some shine. And we look forward to keeping up with you guys and seeing more things come across from you all this fall. Wish you guys the best of luck with the rest of your time in school, and good luck with everything with Campus Waterfowl. All right, we'd like to thank Wesley and Derek for coming on, spending a few minutes with us and talking to us a little bit about Campus Waterfowl. I encourage everybody to check them out on Instagram and Twitter. I'm sure we will continue to see more of them as time goes and as the fall comes. But what do you think, Dan? You take yourself back a few years to your college days and when you were running the mountain ridges of West Virginia. You think you could do it like these guys do?
And we mentioned it there with our baseball schedules. I might have got out 3 times a year to archery hunt, and that's because it was, right, literally, I don't know, 10 miles down the road from our dorm. So the baseball, that I just feel like it stole away some precious time in the field. But that was a different time and very good time in my life. But Wes is out there in Oklahoma and Derek is in South Dakota. So right out their doors, they have some excellent hunting and they're taking advantage of it. And it's a great thing they have going on. Like you said, they're running with the social media and just crushing it, and just tons of people involved in that, sending in pictures, and it's a really good thing. And I think I mentioned it. People say that the sport of waterfowl is dying, and it's hard to tell when you look at the numbers that follow them and interact with them.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it's something that I've actually considered researching for a show topic. But I recently saw an article published on some sort of gun site where it was published, and the title was "I'm a millennial and my generation sucks," or something like that. And it's sort of that struggle with, the people that are still into, outdoor lifestyle and things like that, where, the millennials at least appear to be kind of shifting more towards other things. And, kind of just, there are still people out there that are as passionate about it, and, preserving that culture and that is important. And getting a large group of people in college involved is a key to that, because college is probably one of those first times when you start to separate. You're away from home, and maybe you used to hunt all the time with your dad or something like that, and now you're away from home and you're not hunting and you're drinking and you're hanging out with chicks and doing whatever it is you're doing. It's easy to sort of get away, and sometimes it's not as easy to come back when you get out of that. So good stuff from those guys. I'm glad to see younger groups kind of forming and being a part of the community. So that's why I thought it was real cool to have them on to talk shop a little bit, and look forward to seeing more from them guys in the future.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and you touched on it, but just the peer pressure. You have tons of friends going out. Hey, let's go to this party over here tonight, and they're like, no, I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m. And, there's a reason why I set my class schedule around in the fall. It's so I can get out and do what I love. And that's, it's tough to stick to. So, kudos to them and keep it up.
Yep. So if you're a college guy out there listening to the show and, you got a similar experience, share it with us. We'd love to hear it, and keep on doing what you're doing. Definitely wish that I could have spent a little more time in the field when I was in school, and like you, playing baseball took a good bit of time, and I don't regret a second of it. But it was a 4-year period where I didn't get to do as much spending time in the outdoors as I like to. But anyway, check them out, Campus Waterfowl. Appreciate them spending some time with us, and pretty much going to put a wrap on this show, Dan. Before we kind of pare it down here, I do want to thank the partners of this show that at least in part make the show possible: Sitka Gear, Sport Ear, DeLorme, Higdon Outdoors, and Big Al Silhouette Decoys. We appreciate all the support that we receive from those groups. If you're in the market for any kind of outdoor gear that any of them offer, please consider them when making your purchasing decision. What do you think, Dan? You got anything else you want to touch on here before we close this puppy out?
I think that was a really good show, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and we're getting to the time of year where we like to sort of reset things, and we call it sort of the season. So like sort of starting in September, we will start what we would call our season 3 of the show. So it would be our 3rd waterfowl season that we've been doing the show, and we're excited for some changes that we're going to roll out, and trying to keep the show fresh, and keep up with the good content that folks are interested in hearing. So we're excited about some of that stuff, and looking forward to the fall, man. It's freaking 95 degrees and humid as hell right now, and I just I'm ready for frosty mornings and breaking ice, man. There's no doubt about it.
I hear you. I'm just roasting right now, just sweating, talking to you.
Yeah. All right, well, let me wrap this up. We can let you get back into the air conditioning.
There you go.
All right, we'd like to thank everybody for checking out episode 53 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. Thanks to the guys at Campus Waterfowl for joining us, and hopefully you guys enjoyed all of our discussion with waterfowl news and the retriever training quick tip of the episode. If you'd like to catch up on any of the past stuff that we've been doing, check us out at hpoutdoors.com or on iTunes. Hit us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We love chatting with you guys and appreciate all the contributions to the show. That's going to do it for this week. For Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.